So today I'm going to be giving you 5 tips on how to legally protect your online business. And the first thing that I'll be talking about is your privacy policy. So a privacy policy is basically a document that tells your users exactly what you're going to be doing with your data after you collect it, right? And this needs to be disclosed on your website if you're transacting. So Section 43(1)(p) of the Electronic Communications and Transactions Act states that or requires any supplier of goods and services to have a privacy policy if they're exchanging or transacting online. I'm sorry about that. So I just want to read a couple of things that need to be in this privacy policy that I'm talking about. The first thing that needs to be there is you need to state how you collect the information. The second thing is that you need to state what you do with the information after you've collected it. The third thing is that you need to disclose any cookies that you use and trackers that the site uses. The fourth thing is that you need to disclose if you intend on furnishing other advertising networks with the customer's private information for delivery and ad delivery, etc. The fifth thing that you need to disclose is your users need to know how they can opt in and opt out of their data being collected, right? That needs to be disclosed in the privacy policy. The sixth thing is that you need the contact information of the administrators of the website to be available also on the privacy policy. So they'll know who to contact in the event of where they feel that their private information is being used or has been unlawfully disclosed to third parties. All right. Privacy policies, another thing that I'd like to state is that privacy policies are not strictly regulated in South Africa, but however, it is very essential that you comply and make sure that your privacy policy complies with everything that have just been stated in order to avoid any further liability or action against you which may infringe upon the Poppy Act. So the second thing that I'd like to talk about is that there needs to be some sort of agreement that binds you with the customer. And the reason why you need an agreement between you and the customer is because the customer has certain rights, right? And the agreement, in whatever form it may be, will protect you against liability in the event of things maybe not going right or an unhappy customer, for example. So there's two types of agreements that online businesses generally use. The first one being a membership agreement, and the second one being just standard terms and conditions that the customer agrees to, right? And in order for this agreement to be enforceable, both sides need to acknowledge the terms of this agreement. And this could be done, as you see in online businesses, with a simple click. Right. And another thing that you need to understand is that a simple disclaimer that you might find at the bottom of the website or whatever is merely a supplement to the terms of the agreement and not an agreement in itself. So it does not cure all the problems that you have because the disclaimer is not acknowledged by both sides in all cases, right? So the third legal tip that I'd like to give you in order to protect your online business relates to digital marketing. Before you start marketing your business, it's very essential for you to comply with the code of advertising practice. And if, let's say, for example, you're a social media influencer, right? In the code of advertising practice, it kind of gives you a framework of what you need to do to show people that this is indeed an ad and not something that you're posting of yourself, right? And that kind of protects you from being sued. So now in South Africa, the problem that we have in South Africa is that we have a big monkey see, monkey do mentality. Is that if a big organization does it, we think like it's legal or they're not infringing or they're not breaching the code of advertising practice, right? But however, as we've all seen, that Rain was just recently reprimanded by the Advertising Regulatory Board for its adverts about the 5G that it just put out, right? And there's just a couple of other organizations or companies that I want to mention that have also been reprimanded by the Advertising Regulatory Board. In October 2019, Liveboy was told to withdraw a little statement that was made on their bar soap where they said it had 25 grams extra value in it. So that advertising or that little piece had to be taken out of the bar. In May 2020, Legal Wise was ordered to withdraw a television advert which said that join Legal Wise and from 100 Rand per month, we will pay a lawyer up to 260,000 per case to represent you and your family. That was also found to be misleading, and they were told to withdraw that television ad within a certain time. So from that, you can clearly see that there's many companies. You can go on the website to see that there's many companies that are constantly reprimanded by this board who are doing advertising and advertisements, but are not complying with the code of advertising practices. So the fourth thing that I'd like to talk about is copywriting. And what I mean by copywriting is basically something in writing that kind of advertises or publicizes a business, product, or service, etc. So in one of my previous YouTube videos, I talked about how copyright protection is automatic and you don't have to register a copyright, right? So even with, let's say, a clever paragraph or clever writings that you write on your website and you don't want anyone to copy that, that is automatically copywritten. So if someone infringes upon that and copies that without crediting you, then you then have a case against that person. But just for like swag or style, what you can do is that at the end of the writing, you've probably seen that C that comes with a circle, which kind of like formally or officially shows that this is copyright protection and you don't want anyone to infringe upon this writing. So it's not something that you need to stress about, but it's just something cool that you can do on your website. So the fifth thing that I'd like to talk about is I feel like everyone who's conducting online business, before starting that business, must identify all the relevant regulatory bodies that might be observing your particular industry, right? In the internet is primarily regulated by the Films and Publications Act. And basically what the Films and Publications Act does is that it kind of regulates anything that it deems to be inappropriate, right? And that's a vast thing that I'm not going to get into right now. But one thing that's very important and essential that I like everyone to understand is that most industries are regulated, right? And it's important to see what implications or what regulations you have to adhere to in order to conduct that business before going forward with that business to make sure that you're on the right side of the law whenever you're doing that business, and that can go to the licenses that you need, permits that you may need in order to conduct the business that you are doing. I hope you enjoyed the vid.